My friends, pay close attention. What you are about to see today is not a science fiction movie script, and it's not a projection for the next century. It is the cold documentation of the definitive end of the ballistic missile era and the beginning of absolute military domination by light. The state of Israel has just crossed the final frontier, and the global balance of power will no longer be measured by who has more lead, but by who controls directional energy. While the international media focuses on the ground, counting the number of troops in the trenches of Gaza or Lebanon and Iran, Israel is looking up. And the message was delivered not by an analyst, but by Israel's own Minister of Defense. Yisrael Katz, who went to the microphone to categorically declare Israel is not only developing ground-based lasers. Israel is actively working to be the first country in the world with operational capability to carry out laser attacks.
Diretamente do espaço.
Did you hear that right? An orbital platform armed with light to disintegrate enemy satellites and missiles outside Earth's atmosphere. The Star Wars have begun. We are going to dissect how this technology, which is already a tactical reality in the form of the Iron Beam system, the Iron Ray, known in Hebrew as Eitan, changes the economic balance of all modern wars. And today I'm going to prove to you how Israel's Death Ray is already being replicated on the front lines in Ukraine. How is the United States Navy rushing to protect its ships in the Middle East with similar technology? And more importantly, the exact reason why Beijing and Moscow have just lost sleep over this space announcement. The rule is simple now. It doesn't matter how many thousands of kamikaze drones you produce, they can't fly faster than the speed of light. Now let's get to the action. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like on the video because it takes a lot of work to make. Let's get into the engineering of deterrence, because what happened in the last few days, exactly on June 30, 2026, was kept secret until the dust settled. The Israeli Ministry of Defense, together with the tech giants Rafael and Elbit System and the Mossad Directorate, successfully completed an experiment that merges two eras of warfare. They integrated for the first time the Eitan laser defense system, the Iron Beam, directly into the command and control center of the legendary Iron Dome. This almost impenetrable shield of Israel has changed history, saving thousands of lives since 2011. But it has a strong point and a weak point that Israel's enemies have learned to exploit: mathematics. When Hezbollah or Iran fire a saturation barrage of drones, rockets, and missiles, they don't need all the weapons to hit the target. They just need to exhaust Israel's patience and coffers. Each Tamir interceptor from the Iron Dome costs about $50,000. And when you intercept a larger ballistic missile with the Arrow or David's sling system, the cost of each interceptor jumps to around $2 to $3 million. The Iran-China axis has devised a deliberate strategy of sending cheap drones that cost a mere $20,000, forcing the West and Israel to spend millions on missiles to shoot down scraps of metal and fiberglass. It's an economic war of attrition designed in Beijing, but the integration of Eitan changes that forever. The laser doesn't use lead. The laser doesn't need a stockpile of gunpowder. As long as it has electricity, it fires. And the most brutal part, the cost per shot isn't in the millions, not even in the thousands. A $20,000 Iranian drone is now detected, locked on, and pulverized in the air by an invisible beam of directional light that costs an absurdly low $2 to $3 per shot. Coffee? This is the math that broke the back of Iran and its sponsors. Is it the suffocation of attrition? The light of Israel is the ultimate antidote to the inflation of war. Moshe Patel, head of Israel's Missile Defense Directorate, made it clear that the system had already quietly shot down about 40 Hezbollah drones. The recent experiment raised the bar by testing the laser, not just against light drones, but as a primary shield against rockets and cruise missiles, neutralizing heavy threats, at a negligible fraction of the historical cost. And Rafael and Elbit System, who provide the core of this power source, are already working to miniaturize this technology to be installed on fighter jets, turning every Israeli combat jet into an airborne laser predator. Have you ever imagined seeing this in reality? Yes, my friends, we've stepped out of Star Trek and Star Wars and into reality. But to understand the real seismic impact of this, we need to take our eyes off Jerusalem and look at the rest of the global chessboard, because Ukraine and Taiwan have already gotten the message. Ukraine today serves as the bloody laboratory of the West. The Ukrainians, exhausted from spending their rare $4 million Patriot missiles to shoot down the swarms of Iranian Shahed drones that Putin sends every night, have developed and are already testing their own radar. And a tactical death ray on the battlefield to fry Russian electronic circuits. It's the end of Moscow's impunity. Putin realized that his main cheap weapon of terror is about to become useless against energy beams. Meanwhile, in the hostile waters of the Arabian Sea and the Strait of Hormuz, the United States Navy is also under siege from the drone and missile engineering of the Houthis, financed by Iran. The American ships, tired of spending expensive interceptors, have already started integrating laser cannons onto destroyers and aircraft carriers. Systems that never miss their target because light travels at about 300,000 kilometers per second. And they never run out of ammunition as long as the ship's generator is working. This is where desperation reaches its peak in the corridors of the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing. The entire architecture of China's invasion of Taiwan depends on the so-called Taiwan denial bubble, a wall built with thousands of missiles and swarms of drones aimed at the South China Sea, designed to saturate and sink United States warships. But what if Taiwan and the American and Japanese fleets install the advanced version of the iron beam on every ship, on every coastal base, on every mountain? Well, the immense and extremely expensive fleet of Chinese ballistic missiles built over decades suddenly becomes irrelevant, a relic. And as if that weren't enough, Israel has just publicly handed over the key to security to lock down the South China Sea and prevent communist military expansion. And something unprecedented for you? American forces have just landed on the island of Guam, surrounding China with the Iron Dome system. I'll talk about that in another video, which I'll leave for you at the end of this one. Yes, my friends, the Chinese dragon bet everything on volume, and Israel bet everything on physics. And physics always wins in the end. If dominating the lower atmosphere has already changed the game, the Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, has outlined the ultimate nightmare. I'm going to repeat his words so they stay engraved in your memory. No country from today on has the ability to launch attacks from space. We must be the leading country in the world with this capability. This is not political bravado, my friends. It's the doctrine of survival. Real Star Wars are very different from what Hollywood sells. Earlier this year, during the open confrontation with Iran, Israel had already bombed secret Iranian facilities linked to its space program. The Ayatollah's intention was not just to launch communication satellites, but to build systems to attack and blind Israel's surveillance satellites in orbit, leaving the country blind to nuclear missile launches. Russia and China, by the way, have already cynically demonstrated that they possess anti-satellite weapons launched from Earth, destroying their own old satellites and generating massive clouds of debris in outer space, just to send an intimidating message to the Pentagon? The strategy that Katz revealed is to support Russia. By the way, they have demonstrated that satellites are launched and generate clouds, sending a message to the Pentagon. By the way, they have cynically demonstrated that they possess anti-satellite weapons and massive debris as intimidation for the Pentagon. Russia, and they have already cynically demonstrated that they possess older anti-satellite weapons generating debris in space, where there is no interference from clouds, dust, or weather, and would have the capability to incinerate spy satellites in Turkey. Frying China's navigation systems means disintegrating Iranian ballistic missiles before they advance. Even if they launch from their own platforms on Earth, you disable the threat while it's still ascending. And space becomes the new high ground. So you can get a sense of how Israel is pulling humanity into the future. Remember that between the 1980s and 2011, the United States invested absurd fortunes in the ABL project Airborne Laser, led by Boeing. The American idea was to put a monstrous laser cannon on the nose of a Boeing 747 to shoot down missiles. The Pentagon cancelled the project in 2011 because it was expensive and impractical. Each system cost $1.5 billion and would force the huge plane to fly slowly and exposed in enemy airspace. The United States gave up on the anti-aircraft laser war 15 years ago because the technology at that time didn't allow it. What Rafael and Elbit system companies have done today is an engineering miracle. They compressed, miniaturized, and made cheaper what the American Pentagon couldn't do in the past decade. And the Israeli defense minister summed up the perfect strategy. And he said loud and clear, "It doesn't matter if the enemy has immense resources, our technology will guarantee our advantage against any brute force." It's not about who has more rifles, more ships, or more missiles. Whoever dominates the orbit with light will dictate the geopolitics of the next era, and this is the final link. Why is China betting absolutely everything on forcing a diplomatic and political rupture between Israel and the Western world, you ask me? Why is Israel's technology the biggest bottleneck for Beijing's plans for hegemony? And Tel Aviv is the only center of tactical innovation in the Middle East that the dirty money from the Axis can't buy or corrupt. As a tactical exercise for our community of brilliant minds and elite analysts, I want you to go to the comments now and leave your verdict on our analysis. Write the 2 key words in capital letters. End of scrap or death ray. I want to see who here has the insight to understand the paradigm shift of the modern battlefield. Comment here and help me beat the algorithm. My friends, the undeniable lesson of this space arms race is unforgiving, and we are here to see it with our own eyes. And on the battlefield, those who use obsolete tools and don't master power projection are crushed by the system. Bringing this to your market, the reality is exactly the same. The war you fight today is not for territory. It's for the most valuable currency in the world, people's attention, and I have attracted your attention. Have you noticed how it's getting harder and harder to get people to absorb serious and high-value content on social media? The false impression we have is that only dancing or empty controversy can go viral. I used to think exactly the same way 15 years ago. When I started out in the trenches of radio and television, that's when I understood a golden rule. The mechanism to generate unquestionable authority depends on deep content combined with a solid strategy. Today, I see entrepreneurs who want to be recognized but still haven't understood the new law of gravity. The game now is about media. It's about retaining attention and delivering value. And look at what CMED did. To triple its sales dramatically, a pharmaceutical company understood that it needed to become a media company. Look at Havan. Yes, nobody knew who owned Havan and it was thriving, but then the owner showed up, the old man from Havan. And since then, he hasn't stopped opening store after store, even outside Brazil. So my friends, this works. Your identity can't be outsourced to an agency. The business owner needs to put himself out there and set the vision. The days are over when you could just record any way you wanted with your phone without authority and still make sales. Today, this digital space is bleeding and demands elite professionalism. And pay attention, the problem isn't the algorithm. The goal isn't to turn you into a superficial influencer, but to build your own magnetic communication ecosystem, making the algorithm's math work for you. That's what allows you to increase your margins, serve the best clients, and gain access that used to be restricted. I validated this method by generating over 50 million monthly views on my social networks, and with a very important detail, monetizing all of it in dollars. Not as a magical promise of results, but as absolute proof that whoever controls the narrative controls the market. People want to connect with people. And the real product you need is not an event, it's your definitive transformation into an unquestionable authority. And to forge that, I created a one-of-a-kind immersive experience. On July 12th, I will hold an immersion that is 100% in person. Sitting here right in front of me in my studio with my team in Curitiba. It will be a practical meeting where I will completely open the black box of my method so you can show up in a lethal way. No one is gonna sit in front of you and tell you how it should be, so I'll do that. But I need to be cold with the numbers. There are only 10 physical seats. The follow-up is surgical and personal, and when the 10th spot is taken, the steel door closes and that's it. The QR code is on your screen now. Access the secure link in the description and in the first pinned comment. Type "I want" in the comments and I'll send you the link. Secure your spot immediately and shield your communication against invisibility. And for you who don't want to waste your precious time flipping through remote controls on catalogs full of woke content, trying to find something worthwhile, we have the antidote. We just created our channel with tips on series and movies. In fact, I want you to help me so we can make this channel go viral, okay? We solved this problem with tips that are free of woke stuff and whining. It's a fantastic curation so you can just pick a title and enjoy it with your family without worrying. And most importantly, guys, without wasting time. At least we men spend hours there trying to find a good movie and in the end it's a big mess. That problem is over. My friends, Star Wars is no longer the box office hit of American cinema. It's the security doctrine that will dictate the future of free humanity. Now, comment "Era of Light" to show your understanding that military strategy has changed forever. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and like the video because it takes a lot of work. To do blind, shield your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.